The Russian army, which is fleeing Syria after the overthrow of the dictatorial regime of Bashar al-Assad, has encountered serious problems due to the fact that the new Syrian authorities are refusing to allow the Russian ship Sparta II, which was supposed to evacuate weapons and military equipment from the Russian naval base, to enter the port of Tartus. The mentioned dry cargo ship arrived at the coast of Syria on January the 5th, but continues to drift near Tartus without entering the port, according to information from marine traffic. The ship is under US sanctions and was previously used to transport military equipment from occupied Crimea to Syria. Apparently, the new Syrian authorities, who are now trying to establish contacts with the West, are refusing to allow the sanctioned dry cargo ship through so as not to expose themselves to the risk of possible measures from the US and Europe. Thus, the evacuation of Russian weapons has now effectively stopped. Satellite images from Maxar show that a large amount of military equipment of the Russian army has been brought to the port of Tartus. In particular, dismantled air defense radars and S-400 air defense systems, which the Kremlin apparently intended to use in the war against Ukraine, are located there, but the weapons cannot be loaded onto the ship, since the dry cargo ship is probably prohibited from entering the port. Unofficial sources say 4 Russian S-400 missile launchers have been moved to the Syrian port of Tartus, apparently awaiting evacuation. The 4 launchers are likely part of a batch of 6 S-400 systems that were delivered to protect the Khmeimim airbase in southern Syria several years ago, the Kyiv Post adds. The Sparta II's maneuvers in the Mediterranean are currently being monitored by the American patrol ship PA-8 Poseidon. Earlier, media reported that German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock, during a visit to Damascus, called on the new Syrian leadership to expel the Russian military contingent from Syria. In turn, the media wrote that the Kremlin's decision to withdraw all of its S-400 systems from Syria means that Russia has lost control over the country's airspace. During the operation of the Defense Forces of Ukraine, 36 local residents were killed as a result of Russian air and artillery shelling of Sudzha, Kursk region. This was reported on air by the press officer of the Temporary Military Commandment's office in the Russian Federation, Alexei Dmitrashkovsky. According to him, another 70 people died of natural causes, but about 40 to 50% of them could have had heart failure due to the shelling. Another 100 Russians were injured. The civilian population is mostly at home or in boarding schools because the enemy has stepped up shelling of the settlements of Sudzha and the villages adjacent to it. Many villages simply no longer exist. Dmitrashkovsky noted that Russian troops are also using S-300 anti-aircraft missile systems for strikes. 3 hits were recently recorded, and FPV drones are flying around the city like swarms of bees. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the Russians have concentrated about 12,000 FPV drones, 800 Lancets and 2,500 Mavics in the Kursk region. Let us recall that in early August, Ukrainian troops crossed the border near the city of Sudzha and took control of a significant part of Russian territory. During the occupation of Sudzha, Ukraine took on the responsibility of maintaining law and order, as well as the provision of essentials such as food, water and medicines, but confiscated mobile phones to deter remaining locals from reporting movements to the enemy. As media reported, Ukrainian fighters recently resumed their offensive in the Russian region. Analysts report that they are making progress in 3 directions. The Russians in Kursk are very worried because they were attacked in several directions, and this came as a surprise for them. The defense forces are working. Head of the Center for Countering Disinformation under the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Andrei Kovalenko, noted. Kovalenko said that Ukrainian troops attacked Russian forces in several directions in Kursk Oblast, which came as a surprise to them. In recent months, Ukraine has been on the back foot as Russia reportedly recaptured half of the lost territory and deployed reinforcements, including North Korean troops. Amid the incursion, Deputy Defense Minister Yunusbek Yevkurov traveled to Kursk and met the local governor. Although the reasons for his visit were not officially disclosed, it is thought he came to personally oversee the region's defenses. Amid growing threats from Russia, Europe is starting to respond from a position of strength. NATO has announced a major operation to protect key infrastructure in the Baltic Sea, involving up to 10 ships. As reported by the Finnish publication IL, NATO naval forces will begin patrolling the Baltic Sea at the end of this week. The operation will last until April and will focus on protecting underwater energy and data cables. Important infrastructure will be protected by both NATO ships and vessels provided by allies. Particular attention is being paid to the Gulf of Finland, where joint efforts by Finnish and Estonian navies continue. Patrolling in this area will be a key step in preventing possible Russian sabotage with the support of China. An example of rapid response was Finland, which in December detained the Russian tanker Eagle S after damaging the Estlink 2 submarine cable linking the Finnish and Estonian energy systems. Finnish authorities identified the suspicious vessel within a few hours, stormed it, and took control of it. The actions of the Finnish security forces have received widespread support in Europe, demonstrating the need for a robust and coordinated response to hybrid threats. Finnish authorities actively communicate their actions, publishing daily reports and holding press conferences. Finland's actions and NATO's initiative signal Europe's move to actively protect its infrastructure from hybrid threats emanating from Russia. European countries must ensure operational interaction between all levels of security. Without evidence of the enemy's intention, it is difficult but necessary to assume worst-case scenarios in order to effectively counter sabotage operations. Openly discussing threats helps reduce the fear and disorientation that the enemy seeks to cause. Experts stress the importance of coordinating the efforts of European states with NATO. Joint actions could become a key element in countering Russia's hybrid attacks. Earlier, media reported that another cable between Lithuania and Sweden was damaged. Telia's technical director, Andrius Semeskevicius, said that the communications cable between Lithuania and Sweden was damaged. Due to the emergency, Telia's ability to transmit internet to Lithuania dropped by 30%. The internet is supplied to the country via 3 cables, one of which was damaged. The connection was restored the same day after all the faults were circumvented.